Today on With the First Pick, we're talking the best games, standout performances, and biggest storylines from Week 6 of the NFL season. JJ, tell me what time it is.
The time and the date. It's Ran It Back Monday.
That's right. That's all you need to know. That's the time and the date when we do this thing on Monday. I'm Ryan Wilson. That's former Titans GM Rand Carthon, and that's CBS Sports NFL insider Jonathan Jones. Hey, fun fact, guys. We are 35% of the way through the 2025 NFL regular season. Colts and Patriots are somehow 9-3. Ravens and Bengals are 3-9 combined, and maybe just as surprising, the Chiefs are now 3-3 after that Sunday night win at home over Detroit. Let's start there, and let's start at the end, and we'll work our way back because things got spicy when the game ended. Victory formation, and Brian Branch saunters by the line of scrimmage, makes his way to Juju Smith-Schuster in the backfield, and slaps him upside the head. And then a melee ensues. Brian Branch said after the game that he was angry that he got ear-holed with about 3 minutes to go by Juju on a little down block there. I don't think it's illegal unless they've changed the rules. Didn't appreciate it. The game was out of hand at that point. Dan Campbell was not happy with Brian Branch as a good football player. He loves him as a person in that moment. He was not quite so happy about him. Producer Stryker, do you have that sound?
I love Brian Branch, but what he did is inexcusable, and it's not going to be accepted here. It's not what we do. It's not what we're about. I apologize to Coach Reed and the Chiefs and and Schuster. That's not okay. We that's not what we do here, and it's not going to be okay. He knows it. Our team knows it, and so that's not what we do.
Hey, Rand, I'll start with you as a front office person here. In the moment, what are you doing? Why is Patrick Mahomes getting involved and underneath the scrum at the end? I know he's trying to help out his teammates, but just walking the other direction. If you saw the block, can you confirm for me that it was just a regular down block and not illegal? How do you sort through all that in the moments after the game where guys are fired up with the way they got beat down and then the way they're sort of acting it out in real time?
Well, I mean, the block in and of itself, like I don't quite know the rule in terms of what constitutes as a crackback block, and because I didn't see Brian Branch, and in my interpretation of it, Brian Branch would have to be moving towards where Juju is coming from in order for it to constitute as a crackback block. But just in terms of the slap upside the head, like, he knows he can't do that, and he's admitted as such. And so myself, if I was the GM, if I was Brad Holmes, it would be a conversation. He'd likely be fined just so you could be on the front end of it. He basically played last night for free, just in terms of how I see it. But I've heard people say, oh, should he be cut? Hell no. Like, nobody's cutting Brian Branch because he smacked Juju Smith-Schuster upside the head. And, I mean, if you know anything about Juju and the way Juju has played the game throughout his career, he's had a ton of those crackback blocks, where he's, level people. He's had his moments where he's doing his little TikTok dances on the logos and in pregame. So people have been targeting Juju for a very long time, and Brian Branch was just one that had his moment and was able to put hands on him.
Do you expect there's going to be some pushback from the league, JJ, anything beyond a fine that might come Brian Branch's way?
No, I don't think so from the league. I think that we're talking about a 5-figure fine, right? And whether that's going to be the 25,000, 30,000 variety, you're going to creep up to 40,000. You're going to get in that Jalen Carter spitting on people territory. There's precedent, right, that you set. And like, you don't want to say that kind of shoving somebody in the face, while it is inexcusable, as Dan Campbell said, well, you don't want to see it happen. That's not the same as spitting on someone. And that was $46,000 or so for Jalen Carter. So I think that it's going to be somewhere in that $30,000 range, probably. We'll find out officially Saturday afternoon. The Lions will be able to fine him as well. And then if there's any sort of game punishment, like if he sits out the first series, right, sits out the first quarter, I could see something like that under Dan Campbell. But anything beyond really ran, right, the first quarter sitting out, I don't, these things, while you don't want them to happen, they happen. And so it happened. He'll get fined, and that'll be that.
Couple things. Tell me what you think of this, Rand, as a former player as well. What is I think, look, if we're being honest, it's an open hand slap, and Juju had a helmet on. You got to get flagged and fined and whatever. I'm fine with all that stuff. But to JJ's point, it ain't spitting on someone. But that said, if someone slapped you upside the head and you weren't expecting it on the football field, would you be able, Ray and Carthon, as a Florida Gator and Indianapolis Colt, to restrain yourself, or are you just going buck wild and whatever happens, happens?
No, we fighting. Point blank. Period. We're fighting. I'm not. Yeah, I mean, and it's JJ. You can shake your head. I'm not going to allow another grown man on national television with my wife and kids in the stands, or my family in the stands, and with friends like Ryan and JJ. Do you really think that I'm gonna allow myself to get slapped on national TV and not come back and grab my phone and they're in my text message? Damn, he slapped you. I would have slapped you. Like, no, we're fighting, because the safest place to fight is on the football field. You got pads on. It's only gonna go so far. Somebody's gonna grab you. You know what I mean? So nah, we would have fought. And my attitude, if we didn't fight on the field, it would have been an invite to the tunnel. Yeah. See me in the tunnel. We would have got down one way or another in a space, in area where we didn't violate any laws, where it wouldn't have gone beyond that point.
And you also played in a time where things were different, because I remember Joey Porter, the OG Joey Porter Sr., he went on the Ravens bus. He wanted to fight some people after the game. So you go on the bus, you go in the tunnel. You're not meeting somewhere where you can get arrested or get in trouble. I get it. I also think, if we're being honest, I think Juju flopped a little bit. I don't think that's a stretch to say.
I think that was a real reaction.
You think he was stumbling around like
listen, I'll tell you this.
That's only what I know.
The most shocking thing that you can have happen is to have somebody slap you. I don't care how tough you are. You could be Mike Tyson. Somebody slaps you, it's gonna catch you off guard at first, and then you gotta process it. Wait a minute, did I just get slapped?
Because he didn't need to go to the ground.
I don't think listen, and that's why I think it was real. I don't think and I know we're trying to pull up the image. Just watch this.
He hits him, and now he's collecting himself, and then he goes to the ground. Come on, he did not need to go to the ground.
Hey, listen, you don't know how strong Brian Branch's hands are. That was that initial shot where you like, wait a minute, did he just slap me? And your helmet's twisted, your equilibrium's off, you wobbling sideways. Yeah. But nah, man, like to answer your question, we would have fought.
Okay, no, I appreciate your honesty. JJ, during the telecast, Chris Collinsworth had said he'd spoken with several people in that building in Kansas City that said they feel better about this team at 2-3 heading into this Lions game than the one that won 15 games last year before they got blown out in the Super Bowl. The Chiefs team, Chiefs, thank you. Yeah. The people in the Chiefs building felt better about Kansas City at 2-3 than they did about the team that won 15 games a year ago and went to the Super Bowl. After the convincing win over Detroit, how do you feel?
People really said that. because here's the other thing. I was also in New Orleans during the Super Bowl, and I was talking with a number of Chiefs people, right down the road from their hotel. They weren't telling me, oh boy, I feel like we're about to get blown out here. I tell you what, I'd rather be 2-3 next season going in and facing Detroit than being in New Orleans, one game away from winning a world championship again. So I don't.
Let me rephrase it, counselor.
No, don't rephrase. You are quoting somebody.
Yeah,
it's not your quote. It's not your quote. It's somebody else's. Don't justify it. No,
I'm not trying to justify it, but it can make sense to people who aren't being a-holes on purpose, and I won't point any fingers. Here's the thing. You can feel better about this roster when it gets healthy, whether it's Justin Simmons, who missed time, had a personal issue going on, but he was banged up coming in, whether it's getting Rashee Rice back, whether it's getting all those other wide receivers who are healthy. You can feel better about that than you felt about a team last year that did win 15 games, some of them in some pretty spectacular fashions, and then got their doors blown off in Philadelphia. That's all I'm asking. I'm not saying would you rather be 2-3 or a 15-win team in the Super Bowl. Clearly, anyone who's not 2 years old should be able to understand that, but maybe I should break it down a little further for my friends here. And I ain't talking about Penn State striker either, he's had a rough weekend, and he understood what I was asking.
Leave me out of this.
Okay. All right.
I'm feeling sassy man apocalypse vibes right now from.
Yeah, I'm about to Brian Branch some people. That's all I'm going to say. So,
Man.
given the rephrase, JJ, does that question make a little more sense or no?
I mean, it makes a little more sense, but also like you can feel however you feel about the roster coming off that Jags game where they had 13 penalties. Where you'd argue I disagree with the notion. I think in America, in this country, it's okay to disagree with an opinion, Ryan. I will just say this about the Chiefs. They are coming off a very good win last night against the Detroit Lions. 0 penalties. That's the first game so far this season where a team has had 0 penalties. The offense was humming. I think there was just one Travis Kelce drop. The defense holding the Detroit Lions and what this offense has been doing to 17 points is really impressive. Harrison Butker has to stop missing kicks, but otherwise, I feel great about this team. Now you add a Rashee Rice and you tell me that they didn't have their great young left tackle, but he's going to come back hopefully whatever's going on with him and the personal matters that kept him out of the game on Sunday night. Yeah, of course, I feel great about where this arrow is pointed and this trajectory. But the notion that you presented as this thesis, I just dismiss in hand.
All right, so I failed my PhD thesis. Fair enough. But do you understand that the baseline question, Rand? How do you feel about? Let me put it this way. So I won't take any more strays as I'm walking to the grocery store to mind my own business, get some orange juice. At 3-3, how do you feel about this Chiefs team?
I think the arrow's up, definitely, especially because they're starting to hit their stride as an offense, right? And you're starting to see Mahomes play Mahomes-esque football. You saw yesterday him and Travis Kelce finally look like they were Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes and just had that, the telepathic connection that they have of that third down conversion where Travis sat down between the safety and the linebacker. It was just like they did it without thinking about it. Right. And so I thought that was one of Travis Kelce's better games. And so you're starting to see them trend upwards. And like JJ said, now you're getting Rashee Rice back and you have add him to the fold. Now you're going to see a lot of this downfield explosiveness. You're going to start seeing those shallow crosses where they get the ball on him quick and allow him to run after the catch. You're going to see this offense expand more. Right. And for them, for the part of the season that they hit where they hit that lull, it was all about let's just make it through these 6 games. Let's come out of these 6 games in the best shape possible, and now we're going to have our full complement of weapons, and we could take off. And for them to come out of this 6-game suspension of Rashee Rice 3-3, they got to feel good about heading into the back end of this schedule.
And this was their first real win. I mean, they beat the Giants and the Ravens. Prior to that, they had lost to the Chargers, Eagles, and Jags, as JJ mentioned. Next up, Vegas, Washington, and then Buffalo, and then they get their bye. So we'll continue this conversation for sure. All right, Striker, let's take a quick break here. We come back, and we'll get some real thoughts from Rand and JJ on Tua Tagovailoa questioning leadership in that Dolphins building right after this break.
Only CBS Sports can bring you big time during the heart of Saturday afternoons. It's big time.
It's big time. It's big time. It's big time.
On CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, boy. All right, let's go down to South Florida where things every Sunday you say things can't certainly get worse than this, and the subsequent Sunday things get worse. Thank you, JJ. So, they lost again in demoralizing fashion to the Chargers, I believe. That played the end of the game to set up the game winner by Ladd McConkey. I don't even know how you process that if you're Jalen Phillips, who somehow missed the sack. Striker, let's play the comments from Tua afterwards. I think you have those talking about leadership, and then Rand has some pointed thoughts about Tua's thoughts on leadership.
I think it starts with the leadership in helping articulate that for the guys, and then what we're expecting out of the guys, right? We're expecting this. Are we getting that? Are we not getting that? We have guys showing up to player-only meetings late, guys not showing up to player-only meetings. Like, there's a lot that goes into that. Do we have to make this mandatory? Do we not have to make this mandatory? So it's a lot of things of that nature that we got to get cleaned up, and it starts with the little things like that.
All right, Rand, a couple weeks ago, you were all over Robert Saleh for telling on people in the Liam Cohen dust-up. Is this worse?
Yeah, it's worse.
Okay, I'm setting the table for you. You fired up, man.
It's worse because you're calling out your homeboys, and your brothers. You're calling them out while standing on the outside as if you didn't have a part in that, right?
Hey, can I ask
as
a question,
long.
though? Thank you. I just didn't want to come right in. If guys are not showing up to team meetings, player only meetings, or they're late, when do you bring that up? If perhaps you've talked about it already.
No, you bring it up in the locker room.
Okay.
That is a locker room issue, right? Because again, and the way he phrased it, and maybe he didn't mean to articulate it this way, but he said this has to come from leadership, as if he's saying that this has to come from above guys in the locker room. Like, no, you are a part of that leadership. You wear the C on your chest. You are the starting quarterback on this football team. And so if it's you, if it's Jordan Brooks, if it's Bradley Chubb, or whomever else over there that wears the C on the chest, this is when you guys get together, and whether you do it by position group or whatever the case may be, if there's going to be a player-only meeting, damn it, it's mandatory. Like, that's not a, hey, man, if you got some time, we're going to have a players-only meeting if you want to come through, if you want to come kick it and chill with us. That's not what this is. This is us trying to fix a problem, and it's going to be just us in there. So if you call a players-only meeting and guys are late and guys are showing up, that's because they don't respect you as a leader. And it can't get any more simple than that. If they don't respect you as a leader, damn it, I'll tell you this. When I played for the Colts, if Peyton Manning called any type of meeting, right, guys were showing up. Whether you wanted to be there or not, you were showing up because that's what the leader of our football team called, and you were going to be there and you were going to be present, whether you wanted to be or not. So to me, it just rubbed me the wrong way because, for Tua, you're standing up there, and it felt to me like he was trying to remove himself as if he doesn't have a part in this. Right. And like never once have I heard him. And I did the same thing to Kyler Murray last week. I haven't heard Tua stand up there and say, hey, guys, I have to be better. When Tua is challenged with why he's not playing well or why he's turning the ball over in bunches, then he gets defensive. And it's, no, I'm not turning the ball. Who said? No, man, just accept it. I mean, it's right here on the screen. Most games with 3+ interceptions since 2020. Guess who's number one on that list? Or is he going to turn around and say, hey, nope, Kirk Cousins did it 5 times, and Trevor Lawrence did it 4, and Sam Darnold and Jameis and Matt Ryan? Like, no, just stand up and hold yourself accountable for the things that you haven't done.
So Rand said it really well. I will add to that this is a sign of culture that has continued to snowball over the years. Okay, so you go back to last year, at the end of the season, Tyreek Hill quit on his team.
Right.
Like, that is a gigantic no-no. Quit on the team. And his consequence was not getting the captain's patch this past year, right? He didn't really face any real consequence for quitting on a team, which is a cardinal sin. And the idea that, guys are later not showing up to player-only meetings. They've been later not showing up for a while there. The culture there has not been great once the bloom has started to fall off the rose. But in texting around the league, and I got a couple texts yesterday about Tua's comments from people around the league. One coach said that Tua snitching unsolicited is going to bring consequences for the quarterback. Now, what I mean by that is it going to be something as simple as, hey, next time he gets sacked, is somebody rushing over to help him up? Are guys going to be like, when he says something, is everybody just kind of going to side-eye him just a little bit? It's stuff like that, right? Because to Rand's grand and ultimate point, Tua is very much partially responsible for this leadership void that is going on there. You are the highest paid player in franchise history. You are the quarterback. You were the number 5 overall pick to whom this entire organization has hitched its wagon. And after losing for the 5th time in 6 games, and your only win is to the one winless team in the NFL, after losing yet another game in which you had multiple turnovers, you are going to sit here and effectively snitch on everyone on something that could have been handled. And I think Rand is better positioned to say than I, should have been handled privately in the locker room.
Rand, well, let me follow up on that, because JJ's point's an important one, because this has been lingering for a while, and winning fixes everything. But it just feels like the clock's ticking on what's going on down in South Florida, with not just the people at the top of the org chart, but maybe some guys on the depth chart as well. So you're sitting in a situation like this. Where do you begin, whether you're the GM, the head coach, the number 3 defensive back? Like, how do you get this sorted out? Because it feels like it's just a runaway train, and the cliff, you can see it about 100 feet from here.
Honestly, it's one of those where you just, at this point, you got to live week to week. Right? You got to live week to week, and you got to win this week. And to me, that starts with us being in the building today, having a come to Jesus moment. And that's a team meeting with everyone in front of the meeting, and we just going to air it all out. Now, I don't know what will come out of that. It's just in my experience, and I'll go back to college. We had a moment my senior year. We lost back-to-back games at home. We lost to Ole Miss. We lost to Tennessee at home. I call a players only meeting, right? And it was a moment for us as a team to get together and just air out, JJ, this is how I feel about how you're playing. This is why I think you're playing this way. And Ryan, this is what I think, and this is where I need to be better. And does anybody see it any different? You gave everybody the floor to speak, whether it was the starter or the backup or the kid who was redshirted. Like, where can we fix this? And for us as a team, we went on and we won 5 games in a row, including beating the eventual national champion LSU team at home. And it was a moment for us to come together. And that's what happened, for us. And so that's the one way I know how to do it. In my fraternity, we would have our moments when we had our frat meetings every week. Hey, is there at the end of the meeting, we got all business handled. Hey, does anybody have any discrepancy with another brother? And if you do, let's bring it to the table now, because once we leave this room, we're not talking about it. It's a non-issue. So if we need to be in here for another hour to iron out, JJ, how you feel about me, let's get it out of the way now, because once we leave, we're not allowing this to come in and potentially, splinter our brotherhood. And so it's those type of moments. But here's the thing. Let's take this all the way back. I'm going to put my old head hat on here. Therein lies the problem with this generation being able to confront issues, right? Because everything now is hidden behind, I'm going to send a tweet. I'm going to tweet out how I feel, and then I'm going to turn off my comments and my mentions, and I'm going to leave it there. You know what I'm saying? Instead of going directly to the person and having that conversation, or standing up in front of a room full of your peers and having the tough, hard conversation. And so all of that factors into where we are now with this Dolphins locker room. Because I said it on TV last night. I said it a little bit this morning. We talk about Mike McDaniels. We talk about Chris Greer. We talk about these guys ad nauseum. We talk about their job security ad nauseum. This issue that Tua, like JJ said, unsolicited and brought up on his own, like that is a player problem, right? That has nothing to do with Mike McDaniels. That has nothing to do with Chris Greer. And so those are the type of things that these guys need to be on top of, because I've said before, like, I hear you. I understand why the Dolphins fans want these changes to happen, but at some point, the guys in the locker room need to band together and be there and support each other, regardless of what other noise is going on around them. And so far, they haven't done that.
They have not. Let's talk about a team that has done it, and return to Charlotte's shining star, Jonathan Jones, to talk about not only Rico Dowdle, who is the made a promise to the Cowboys and followed through, back-to-back big weeks for him, the Carolina Panthers running back. But, JJ, what's the temperature on Dave Canales and Dan Morgan, the head coach and GM? And then, of course, Bryce Young, who plays good and fits and starts. You still see bad Bryce, but you're seeing a little bit more good Bryce. Tevin McMillan got his first few touchdowns yesterday in that game. Xavier Legette is still up and down. But it feels like you can feel perhaps a little better about the Panthers and the direction they're going if you're the owner.
This is the latest the Carolina Panthers have been 500 in 4 years.
Yikes.
So that's major. Like that's huge for a team that has one of the longest playoff droughts in the entire NFL. You know, I know that that's not the way that they want to be marked by success, but that's the Carolina Panthers' lot in life, especially since really 2018, David Tepper took over this team. And so you are seeing a number one overall pick in Bryce Young, who, yes, he is still up and down. You would rather him have picked up where he left off at the end of last season. But instead, until the final drive of week 2 against the Arizona Cardinals, we were wondering, is he going to get benched for Andy Dalton, just like he got benched after week 2 the previous season? And so he started to turn things around. The fact that Chuba Hubbard goes out and Xavier Legette isn't really performing that well, and Ted McMillan, while he did have 2 touchdown receptions, I think it only had 3 receptions the entire game. If you told me that going in, I would have said, well, this might be a get-right game for the Dallas Cowboys, right? The stadium's going to be cheering for the Cowboys in what is still a somewhat largely apathetic Charlotte until Carolina can prove that it deserves the fans to pay the money to show up on those Sundays. And the fact that Rico Dowdle goes off again is a credit to him.
This is a crazy stat, by the way.
It's absurd, right? So, and I loved his quote, right? I guess they weren't buckled up. So credit to the Panthers because I know that there were a lot of folks around the league who had an eye on Carolina. Will they potentially make a move? And I'm not saying that because they're 3-3 that now they're going to the postseason, but they have been able to get things much quieter around the league, talking about Charlotte, talking about their organization than it has in several years.
Hey, Ryan, is there anything because in the media, we talk a lot about revenge games, and a lot of times it's just a way to fill up time. But Rico Dowdle said, I'm going to do this to you, Dallas Cowboys, who didn't want me after 5 seasons. And he did it. And that comes after last week where he went off. Is there anything to motivating players beyond them loving football and getting paid? Is there another way to sort of get them to push their buttons and do things that maybe they didn't know they were capable of?
Oh, no, this is real. He wanted this one, and you go into it, and all of you guys have played sports on some level, right? And you had those games when that schedule comes out, you highlight or you circle like, yeah, this is a game, right? For something that happened, they beat us last year, or I got beef with a guy on this team, or whatever the case may be, you want to prove to that team. And in Rico's case, like, this is why y'all should have paid me. And this is why I'm still a better running back than anybody you have on your roster at this point. And so this game meant something to him in those moments where maybe I could run out of bounds right here. Like, nah, same foot, same shoulder. You're going to get this work today. And so it's those moments. And, yeah, these guys are motivated. And, to where this Carolina team is going, like Bryce Young is playing good football right now. Still has to limit the turnovers and the silly mistakes because he can't put them in a bad position that way. But I'll tell you this, with Rico Dowdle emerging where he is, when Chuba Hubbard is back, like, this is going to be reminiscent of having Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams and being able to just ride those 2 guys, and just all the quarterback now really has to do is play efficient football. Right? The threat of play action. Now you can get some type of creativity, because I know you guys remember this, particularly JJ, how creative Carolina was when they had those 2 guys in the backfield together. They were super creative with the different formations, the different sets, because now you get to dictate what the defense runs. Right? Because if you try to come out and we got we call it a pony set, right? Where you got the 2 tailbacks in the backfield and not a fullback and a tailback, but you got the 2 tailbacks. If you try to come out against run your nickel defense on us with that, oh no, we're going to try to bludgeon you. We're going to try to force that corner to have to set the edge and play run support, and good luck tackling one of our 2 guys. And so they're starting to turn this corner, right? Because there was some talk of whether Dave Canales or Dan Morgan were in trouble. Coming into this year. But I think people are starting to see the vision of what they were trying to build. And yet another example that it just takes time. Right. It takes time to build these rosters, because a lot of times, man, the whole or the cards that you're dealt walking into some of these organizations is much bigger than what it looks like on the surface. And it just takes time to just get back to zero, let alone get on the positive side of zero. And I think we're starting to see the Carolina Panthers get this thing back to zero.
Did you want to add something, JJ? Or are you just in agreement with the Fire and Ice comment?
No, I did like that a lot. And the last thing, just a quick add, is that if they do come out in those two back sets, I'd love to have the numbers about how many teams are running that and how often they are. I can't imagine that is happening a whole lot. So you will be catching defenses that A, don't have the personnel, B, the personnel doesn't want it, C, the personnel is not at all prepared for it with the personnel that you do have out there on the field who is not prepared for it.
Yeah, the only other team I could think of off the top of my head, as you were saying it, that runs it a little bit and probably should run it more is Detroit because of the two guys that they have.
Right.
And those type situations are 1A, 1B, right? Because if either one of those guys go down, you still got a bell cow runner that you can turn around and hand it to, and your offense doesn't miss anything. But it's just the added bonus of having two legitimate guys in your backfield just makes you that more versatile.
Also points to the importance of, you can hit a home run on the tier 1 free agents, but the guys you get a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks in the free agency, like Rico Dowdle, can be impactful on your football team when the players at the top of the depth chart go down. So great job.
Real quick though, Ryan, because you got this on a 1-year deal and you've already paid Chuba Hubbard, March is going to present another conversation, right? Like, how do you pay two backs at the higher end of the market? Like, how do you do that? Or is one worth franchising? Again, that's Dan Morgan and Dave Canales' problem, not mine. I'm hanging out on the Randy Back Monday podcast with my two homeboys.
I would encourage all of us, Rand and JJ, just to live in the moment. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about a player that's on a 2-year deal who had a terrible afternoon, and even worse news for his teammate Fred Warner. We'll talk about Mac Jones, Fred Warner, and the 49ers right after this break.
Hi.
Novocaine?
Novocaine!
Novocaine is now streaming on Paramount Plus.
You're gonna love this.
Oh, you're strong!
It's wildly entertaining and an absolute blast.
I'm in.
Novocaine, rated R, now streaming on Paramount Plus.
All right, Rand, let's start with the 49ers making their way to Tampa Bay and the unstoppable Buccaneers. You know Fred Warner quite well. You were out in the Bay Area this preseason talking to him. I think the honeymoon's over with Mac Jones, at least for now. There were a lot of reasons they lost that game. It wasn't all Mac Jones, but he did not play well. But just tell me short-term impact, like in the moment when you see Fred Warner have to leave in an air cast because he broke his ankle and he's done for the year. And then if you're John Lynch or Kyle Shanahan or Robert Saleh, what are the 1 week out, 4 months out? How do you deal with the loss of your best player?
Well, this is their biggest loss that they've suffered. In my opinion, because he does so much. He does a lot of hidden things. He has hidden production that doesn't show up on the stat sheet. But like we just talked about on the Morning Buzz this morning, since Fred Warner was drafted in 2018 and he became the starting linebacker, no one has held the green dot since that moment. And so for him and his communication skills and him being an extension of Robert Saleh or whatever defensive coordinator he's had is huge because he communicates with the defensive front. He could turn around, get the safeties lined up because their safeties are still a young bunch, right? And so now you're going to ask a player, whomever it is, to come in and fill that role while stepping into the Mike linebacker role. That's asking a lot. And so, again, we talk about Fred Warner and his impact on this offense, but Fred Warner is also the unquestioned leader of this entire football team. And so I texted him after the game with well wishes, and he responded in only a way that Fred Warner's going to respond. Like, hey, man, I appreciate you, but I'm coming back better than ever. And if you know him, a lot of guys say that because they're trying to psych themselves out and they're dealing with this. But I believe him. Because I think from whatever and I'm pretty sure there's going to be a surgical procedure and everything. He'll knock that out, get that done this week. And I guarantee you in some form or fashion, he's going to be back around this football team, helping do his part as a captain and as a leader, being there to support his teammates. And they're not going to allow him to be on the field, but I guarantee you he's going to be up in the box. He's going to have the earpiece in, and he's going to be helping coach these guys up as soon as he can.
He won't be on the field because of the injury or because of
the injury, because of a mobility standpoint and guys moving around, he wouldn't be able to protect himself. But they have a players area upstairs for injured guys for them to sit and watch the game. So I'm pretty sure that's where he'll be watching the games.
JJ, I thought it was telling that even on the cart off the field, we saw Fred smiling, and he actually looked as unconcerned as anyone could look who just broke their ankle, to Rand's larger point about who he is as a person. Any thoughts about what this team looks like now that Mac has come back to earth and you're waiting for Brock Purdy? Or if you want to talk about the other side of that ball, where the Buccaneers finally won a game that didn't require them to do something in the last minute, you can take this any direction you want.
I'll just say this about Fred Warner. When he goes out, I think a lot of people, we've had a lot of talk about the trade deadline and what moves teams can make, right? There's no trade the Niners can make that will replace Fred Warner. Right. He's the best in the business at what he does. So that's number one. Will they go out and look for another linebacker? Perhaps. Will that linebacker have to take some time to get up to speed and all that? Yes. I believe that this puts a greater emphasis on going out and getting an edge rusher, because you're going to have to go out and get someone who can affect the passer. Fred Warner, even when Bosa's out, he covers up so much because he's so instinctual, because he's so athletic, because he's the best at what he does, that if you're deficient up front, if you're deficient in the back end, he can make up for some of that. Well, you've been deficient up front, and now you are hurting at the second level of your defense. So go rush the passer. Like you have not before. So I think that puts a premium on that. I'll say this about the Buccaneers, just flipping over sides. I do think that Baker Mayfield right now is a top 3, top 2 MVP candidate. I made this point Sunday night on HQ with the guys. When the Buccaneers signed Baker Mayfield, they signed him to a 1-year, $4 million contract. And they put him in competition. This was 2 years ago. This is 2023. And they put him in training camp competition with Kyle Trask. They were splitting QB1 reps.
Which is a wild sentence to say out loud 2 years later.
Okay. But that's what the Buccaneers, who believe in Baker Mayfield, that's what they did a couple years ago. So I know that there has been this, and I'm going to write a story for CBSSports.com about this, but I know that there's sort of been this look back, this retrospective of, boy, why did the Browns get rid of him? Man, how did it not work in Carolina? That was really cool in LA. It was cool when he came in and played in that primetime game. He also went 1-3 as a starter in LA. Just as a heads up, no other team out there wanted him at $5 million in 2023. Now he's setting himself up to potentially win an MVP and make $50+ million on his next contract. So that is not to diss Baker Mayfield at all. That's just to set the record straight, because our memory may be a little wonky here, that the same team that he is stunting for right now had him split reps 26 months ago with Kyle Trask.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And Randy and I talk about it all the time about these college kids. Fit matters. And Sam Darnold's the same conversation. Daniel Jones is the conversation we're having now, 6 weeks into the season. Mac Jones is sort of a conversation when he's not turning the ball over. Before we turn the conversation to the MVP, which I'm glad you got to, JJ, I'll ask both of you guys this. Rand, if I told you on August 31st that you can either have Brock Purdy or Fred Warner for the entire season, that's Kyle Shanahan, and you knew you had everyone else on the roster, Mac Jones, yada, 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 who would you rather have?
Fred Warner.
What do you think, JJ?
I'd go Purdy. Because I would not have believed that Mac Jones, as much respect as I have for Kyle Shanahan, and this is me really respecting Fred Warner as a player. I think that he is the best player at his position on the San Francisco 49ers. I did not think that Mac Jones would be able to go 3-0 as a starter. I wouldn't have believed that.
No, I get
it. And for me, the reason why I'm choosing Fred Warner is because of my intimate knowledge of how Mac Jones fits in this system.
Yeah.
You were there when you guys traded up to number 3 to get Trey Lance, correct?
And so it would be easier for Kyle to put game plans together for a Mac Jones to beat an opponent than to find someone that's going to replace Fred Warner, if that makes sense.
It does. No, that's right. I was leaning towards Fred just because I have a soft spot for Mac. I'm hoping this thing works out. I'll be at my deathbed saying, did Mac win today? But here we are. All right, before we get out of here, let's follow up on a point JJ made just a moment ago. Let's say, Rand, you have you can name as many people you want. 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. It doesn't matter to me. What's your MVP list look like here through 6 weeks? We heard the name Baker mentioned. I think he has to be in the conversation. I can list. I can list off some names, or you guys can just list them off yourself, and we'll go from there. What do you got, Rand?
I'll say this: when JJ said, he's a top 3 candidate, top 2 candidate, I agree with that. Yeah. And I was going to steal a Beyonce line and say I'm top 2, but not number 2.
Yeah.
And so to me, he's the leading guy. And the reason why I say that, and it's close. It's him and Josh Allen. It's close, yep. Right? But I will say this, and again, when I'm framing this in my head now, and I'm kind of going to be talking out of both ends of my mouth here. What Baker Mayfield has done with the amount of injuries that have gone on around him, and he has this team still very much in the conversation for being the best in its conference without your top 4 receivers. You're missing three offensive linemen. You're missing your starting running back. He's doing these things with less, right? And so to me, his presence, that 3rd and 14, that is an MVP play. That is what we call
the Josh Allen play that Baker did.
That is a gotta have it moment, right? And so it's those type of plays that he lifts his team. And so if you go back to Josh Allen's season last year, I think he played the majority of the year with a healthy offensive line.
Yep.
And so his offensive line was healthy, so he didn't have those same concerns up front as Baker Mayfield has on a week-to-week basis. So that's why, for me, he's leading. And I would even throw Jonathan Taylor into the argument.
There it is.
With how he's playing. This will never happen in whatever it's our league. But Nick Bonito is making an argument for himself in the way he's playing, and he's getting after the quarterback. So those are just some names for me that came to mind.
No, those are good names. I'm laughing not because Nick Bonito isn't worthy, but if he played the Jets every week, he would win the MVP by week 11. That's how sad the state affairs are in New York. One of the funny things come out of that win for the Bucs, and I agree with you and Baker, both you and JJ about it, is Tez Johnson got to play a little more because of all the injuries, caught a big touchdown pass. And then after the game, Stryker, play the clip of what he thought was happening that wasn't really happening to him.
I'll tell you a funny story. This is crazy. When I score and I hit MVP chant, I'm thinking they talking about me. So I asked Shep. I'm like, Shep, they was chanting MVP? And he was like, yeah. I was like, I ain't do nothing this year. And then he was like, they talking about Baker, Tez. And I was like, well, that explains it. But he is the MVP. The one he got the first down on, he said he blacked out. But, I mean, that's just Baker. The pump fake get everybody. I'm just like, oh, my God, he's a dog. Like, I don't know what he put in his cereal before the game. Like, but that guy on it every single week.
May we all live with the confidence Tez Johnson has.
No, you said it. Live in the moment.
Live in the moment.
He was living in that moment.
I love it, man. We talked to Tez at the combine. He's a great young man. So I'm glad he's having some success there. A couple of names I mentioned, JJ, and you can tell me what you think about these, and you can add your own if you want. I think Drake May make a little noise. Drake May's a fun conversation to have. I think top 5. Josh Allen, you mentioned. Jonathan Taylor, I think he certainly deserves to be there. Sam Darnold will be another one. And JJ, am I just drinking the Kool-Aid? Patrick Mahomes playing better, or is that too soon?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would think as long as Mahomes is Mahomesian and the way that he's playing, if that continues from last night on, he has to be in the top 5. I'm not saying right now, right? But if we're projecting, Josh Allen for me is number 1 right now, and he obviously has a game. And it's hard because you try not to just be a prisoner of the moment, right? Baker had a hell of a game. He had that moment. We just saw it. Josh Allen hasn't yet played in prime time this week. And so I just want to wait right there for a tick. Drake May is going to need a little bit more in order to get in that top 5 conversation. Dak Prescott's going to have to win more games with the Dallas Cowboys. And I don't know if that defense is going to allow him to win more games to really be in that conversation. I think we all know it's really hard for running backs to win MVP. Jonathan Taylor is going to have to break Eric Dickerson's record in order to really win the MVP. And I'll say this.
Still won't.
And still won't. I will say this because Rand brought up a good point about Baker and how he is doing more with less with all the injuries around him. You know, part of the reason that Josh Allen won MVP last year is because of the V, is because of valuable, because of the expectations we had for the Bills, where we were saying at the start of last year, as the window closed, look at the wide receivers he has, all those things. And he was able to put on MVP performances, and they were winning because of Josh Allen, right? And so he has continued to do that, but so too has Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it's close. It's 1-2. Right now, I still have Josh. I have Baker too. But of course, you know, there's only 11 games or so to play.
Yep. And maybe Jonathan Taylor and Daniel Jones can share the award because they have both played well. JT, not so much a surprise. Daniel Jones certainly is one. All right, that's it for us here on Random Back Mondays. Rand and I will be back on Wednesday for Young Fellow Wednesdays to talk about what happened in the college week that was. Big game out in Oregon, with Indiana. Terrible developments in Penn State, Rand, and we'll let producer Stryker steal over those for the next 48 hours. In the meantime, thank you all you guys who watch, listen, and comment. We will see you in the next one.